an epic showdown between Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg, which took place on The View. About the surface, the daytime talk show The View may appear to be a harmless and humorous arena where fans tune in for conversations about controversial themes, celebrity gossip, and political issues. However, this is not the case. On the other hand, the program is well known for its contentious arguments, argumentative exchanges, and moments of raw honesty between the hosts. The varied personalities of the panelists frequently result in clashes that are not only memorable, but also occasionally explosive. One such event that will live long in the memory occurred when Karoline Leavitt, a former political staffer and conservative commentator, found herself in a heated fight with none other than Whoopi Goldberg, the longtime co-host of the show and the vocal liberal voice of the program. The unpredictable nature of live television and the raw emotions that can surface when ideological confrontations occur are both illustrated by this confrontation, which goes on to become an iconic incident in the history of The View. This is the context. Just prior to the confrontation, Leavitt was a rising figure in the conservative political arena. She had previously worked as a press secretary for a member of the United States Congress, and the political commentary that she had provided had attracted the attention of media sites that were on the right. The invitation to appear on The View was extended to Leavitt, who was in her late 20s at the time, so that she could promote her political beliefs and discuss the most recent contentious subjects in American politics. She was anxious to make an effect and contribute a fresh perspective to the continuing conversations that frequently pitted the liberal panel members against conservative opinions. She was armed with her sharp wit and conservative viewpoints, and she was interested in making a difference. As a seasoned professional in the entertainment industry, Whoopi Goldberg was a well-known personality not only in Hollywood, but also on the talk show circuit. Goldberg had established herself as one of the most prominent liberal voices on The View, where she was known for her witty and frequently irreverent demeanor throughout her time there. Having engaged in contentious debates with a number of politicians and public figures throughout the course of her career, she was no stranger to contentious relationships. On the other hand, it was her unanticipated encounter with Leavitt that would turn out to be a landmark milestone in the history of the program. As the tension increases. On the day of the showdown, the program began with the typical banter, introductions, and humorous moments such as those seen in many earlier episodes. There was a wide range of themes that were discussed by the hosts, ranging from societal issues to celebrity gossip. There was a clear political division among the panelists, as was to be expected, with Leavitt expressing the conservative viewpoint and Goldberg offering the liberal opinion. As soon as the topic of the ongoing discussion around abortion rights in the United States was brought up, the sparks started flying throughout the room. As is the case with a great number of conservative voices, Leavitt has voiced her unwavering opposition to abortion, particularly in light of the most recent political developments. In addition to expressing her concerns about what she regarded as the deterioration of moral standards in American culture, she emphasized that the right to life ought to be safeguarded. Leavitt's statements were welcomed with some nods of agreement from the other conservative panelists. However, Goldberg, whose position on abortion rights had been solid for a long time, was not going to have any of it. Leavitt's opening remark was met with a furious rebuttal from Goldberg, who had remained relatively silent during the most of the statement. She voiced her amazement at Leavitt's attitude, pointing out that it was an oversimplification of a matter that would otherwise be extremely complicated. In a passionate argument, Goldberg maintained that the decision to terminate a pregnancy was a very personal one, and that politicians should not be in the business of dictating the reproductive rights of women. Additionally, she asserted that conservatives such as Leavitt were attempting to legislate morality and violate the autonomy of women within the society. This event served as the commencement of the confrontation. As Leavitt continued to defend her position, she became increasingly emotional. She attempted to demonstrate that her opinion was founded not only on her own personal values, but also on a conviction in the sanctity of life. Goldberg, on the other hand, was not going to back down. There was a noticeable increase in the volume of the two women's voices as they began to speak over each other. There was a palpable sense of tension in the room, and the audience could sense that something more significant was currently taking place. There is a clash of personalities. Not only did the ideological gulf between Leavitt and Goldberg make this fight so interesting, but the extreme contrast between their personalities was another factor that contributed to its allure. In contrast to Goldberg, who was a seasoned media veteran, Leavitt, who was young and forceful, was eager to make her mark, while Goldberg, who had years of experience working on live television, emanated an air of authority and confidence that comes from such expertise. Leavitt's attempts to engage with Goldberg frequently resulted in the older co-host rejecting her views, sometimes with laughter and other times with stinging sarcasm. Goldberg's refusal to engage also occurred frequently. Goldberg was a dangerous adversary, particularly when it came to defending her viewpoints, due to the fact that she had a reputation for being loud and quick-witted. In the meantime, Leavitt's frustration increased, and she had a hard time getting a word in despite her best efforts. To add gasoline to the fire, Goldberg even reprimanded Leavitt at one point for not listening, which was really quite an insult. It became very evident that the two women were not only at odds with one another about a policy issue, but that they were also engaged in a war of wills as the level of the argument increased. In spite of the fact that Leavitt had anticipated taking part in a respectful argument, she found herself on the receiving end of Goldberg's fast jabs, which included both verbal and nonverbal attacks. Goldberg, on the other hand, gave off the impression that she was irritated by what she perceived to be Leavitt's refusal to comprehend the nuances of the matter at hand. A crucial moment in time. Exasperated, Goldberg interrupted Leavitt's lecture and asked, "Why do you think it's your job to tell other people what they should do with their bodies?" This was the moment that the confrontation reached its zenith. For some reason, Leavitt was taken aback by the question, which was straightforward and sharp. Before giving her response, she took a brief pause to collect her thoughts, but Goldberg was not yet finished asking her questions. "You are a guest on this show, and you are not the only person here with a viewpoint," she added, maintaining a tone that was authoritative but not cruel. To her credit, Leavitt did not back down from her position. She reacted with a fervent defense of her convictions, adding that she felt a moral obligation to speak up on behalf of the unborn. These statements were made in response to the question. Because neither of the women was prepared to give any ground, the tension in the room increased as they locked eyes with each other. It was a dramatic show of the often combative dynamics that play out on The View, where diverse opinions collide, yet the borders between personal belief and public debate can sometimes become blurred. For viewers at home, the moment was a spectacular presentation of these dynamics. Resulting outcomes. After the conflict, the producers of the show did everything in their power to turn the subject around and bring it back to a more peaceful place. The remaining members of the panel, who had been sitting in silence for the majority of the conversation, made an effort to break the ice by offering their own points of view in an effort to lighten the atmosphere. Having said that, the losses had already been incurred. Leavitt and Goldberg kept a noticeable distance from one another throughout the remainder of the episode, which contributed to the overall feeling of tension throughout the show. Despite the fact that both women had made their points, it was clear that the exchange had taken an emotional toll on them. Following the conclusion of the broadcast, the clash became the topic of discussion on social media and was the focus of intense disputes in the journalistic community. Leavitt was acclaimed by conservative commentators for her unwavering stance and unwavering support of her ideas, while Goldberg was lauded by left voices for her unwavering stance on women's rights and for challenging Leavitt's perspective. Both sides of the political spectrum used the encounter as a rallying cry for their respective causes, despite the fact that it was deconstructed in a large number of opinion pieces, online forums, and news reports. As a defining moment for The View, the epic confrontation that took place between Goldberg and Leavitt became one of the most talked about moments in the long history of the show. This brought to light the unedited and unfiltered nature of the show, which is characterized by the rapid escalation of political disputes into intense and emotional confrontations. In addition, the show brought to light the ability of television to capture actual moments of conflict, in which viewers are not merely spectators, but rather active participants in the discussion. The confrontation presented Leavitt with a challenge, as well as an opportunity to demonstrate his skills. Despite the fact that her appearance on the show may have turned off some viewers, it also served to firmly establish her place as a rising player in conservative politics. The fact that she had engaged in a head-to-head confrontation with one of the most influential voices in the liberal media did not change the fact that she had established a name for herself. From Goldberg's perspective, the confrontation served to confirm her position as the unwavering liberal voice on The View. She indicated that, despite the fact that she might be open to conversation, she would not be easily influenced when it came to matters that she felt strongly about. Goldberg's handling of the situation demonstrated that her years of experience working in the media had adequately prepared her for confrontations of this nature, and she continued to be a force that could not be ignored. Final thoughts. The momentous confrontation that took place between Karoline Leavitt and Whoopi Goldberg on The View went down in the annals of the show's history as a landmark moment. It was a collision of two powerful personalities, two worldviews that were diametrically opposed to one another, and two women who were adamant about not compromising their religious convictions. Despite the fact that the discussion may have been controversial, it was also a demonstration of the power of discourse and the significance of engaging with different points of view, regardless of how uncomfortable or hot the topic may become. In conclusion, the episode served as a timely reminder of the unpredictability that is inherent in live television, and the manner in which moments of stress and conflict have the potential to leave an indelible mark, not just on the subjects of the show, but also on the audience. One of the most unforgettable episodes in the long and illustrious history of The View is the confrontation that took place between Leavitt and Goldberg, as experienced by those who were present at the time.